Askreddit thread. If we chucked ethics out the window, what scientific breakthroughs could we expect to see in the next 5 to 10 years? Might not be as exciting as others on here, but we'd know a lot more drugs were safe to use in pregnancy. Pregnant women are a pain to treat because a lot of drugs haven't been tested on them. That sounds legit. Organ farms. The movie/book Never Let Me Go is a really good description of this. Or just paying women who have been previously diagnosed as a potential genetic match to have a child who would be put into a state of a coma straight after birth just to give organs time to get a little bigger and then harvest them. Technically, there's no actual harm to the child, other than them dying. Wasn't the young adult book House of Scorpion something like this? Yep, normally they were kept comatose, but the main character wasn't because his original was all fuck the rules. Not comatose, but their brains were basically destroyed, leaving them more or less retarded. Oh my gosh, I love that book so much. House of Scorpion seems like a book I want to read. I once did a report on the ethics of cloning. I forget for which class it was, though. I think it was like for a public speaking class. Or maybe it was an English class. I don't know. Basically, cloning is never going to happen because of ethics. That was it. The bit with the screaming clone freaked me out when I was a kid. Was this suggested before? This is like the most controversial thing I've read. I guess you haven't watched The Island. Covers the topic quite nicely. Good movie, action rather than actual science, but still. In real life, it wouldn't openly be discussed because every human has a right to live. Protection from harm, yada yada, basic human rights. Yeah, that's the basic reason of why cloning is banned. Because does the clone have human rights? That's the big issue, and that basically the big consensus is that yes, they do. So you shouldn't do it. And this procedure would violate quite some, and the organ donor would definitely qualify as a human. Something that has actually been done is where a parent needed stem cell therapy, but no matching donor could have been found. They're having a baby to harvest stem cells from the umbilical cord. This baby will then be able to become a fully functional person. Still not exactly uncontroversial. Ever read My Sister's Keeper? Great book. One sister has cancer and the other is selected as an embryo, then grown and birthed and raised specifically to be able to donate organs, marrow, whatever, to keep the older sister alive. The book is great. The book is about how she legally fights for her freedom to not have to undergo dangerous and painful medical procedures on a regular basis for someone else's benefit. There's a lot of love between the girls too, which complicates it. Won't spoil anything, but it's a must-read for anyone interested in this kind of topic. Wow. Sounds like a good book. Elimination of most genetic diseases through editing of embryo DNA. If you could have a child that was less prone to genetic malfunctions, why would you not take that option? What does that tell your kid? Daddy, why do I have brittle bones / epilepsy / a bad heart? Well, son, we had the option of possibly saving you from that, but then we thought, fuck it. Ethics. A main plot point of Gattaca. While the easiest option consists of creating a couple of fertilized egg cells and destroying the ones that have genetic defects, it kind of raises the question if you are saving your future child from anything or simply choosing who your future child will be. That's true. Fuck clones. No, not disintegrating clones, but rather clones to fuck. Wow, I've been gilded. Thanks, kind stranger. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I have my window open right now because it gets really hot in my room whenever I record because I have to close my door. My room is not well insulated, so I decided to leave the window open. I wonder if you guys will be able to hear the noises outside. So far, the only thing I've heard so far is like a little kid going to the park because I live right across the street from a small park, and cars driving by, which you don't normally hear when the window's closed. I'll probably listen to this recording to see if I can hear it or not. I usually don't listen to these after I make these videos. Askreddit videos are like the easiest videos I can make. I literally just hit record and read, and it's ready to upload. I don't have to edit. Because I have the entire thing set up in OBS to have the background, and it's set to the correct dimensions. It's pretty great. I wish I could record all my videos this way. Let's see here. You are very attractive. May I have a strand of your hair, like I make a clone to add to my personal use collection? I even creeped myself out with that one. Porn stars would make an absolute killing. They'd have to be Flash clones, though. I'm not a fan of raising a toy black clone from birth. Even worse, I'd see her as a daughter growing up. Yeah, that's true. I'm sure there's a market for that. This went from slightly creepy wrong to nope territory real fast. I think you're talking about human marketing. What part of if we checked ethics out the window was unclear to you? Additionally, Flash clones of people you'd like to maim / and or murder. Huge market there. There's also an episode of American Dad. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. They ended up seeing their clones as daughters. So they swapped their clones and decided to go with the other ones. Oh man, I could start a business called Go Fuck Yourself. Cater to the most narcissistic people out there and make myself a multi-millionaire. I sometimes imagine about this. If I were able to make a clone that shares perfectly identical DNA to mine except only the gender part, how attractive would she be and what would it feel like to fuck her? I always wonder how big female me's tits would be. So, we'll have to need to invent 3 things for this to work. Cheap, reliable cloning, controlling agents so it happens rapidly, and then plateaus at a desired age. Controlling cognition so the fuck clone is basically a compliant zombie with minimal sentient. Trivia. This is something that Jeffrey Dahmer was trying to accomplish in his early murders by drilling a hole in the person's head and pouring in acid. Wow. What a crazy guy. Ah, yes, Jeffrey Dahmer. What a visionary. Having a backup clone for spare parts. This is the plot of House of Scorpions. Great book. We'd probably have cured a catalog of neurological afflictions. Actually, I think this is like one of the... Because when I wrote my report on cloning, on why it shouldn't be banned, basically, I think I used one of this as one of the selling points to it. I tried to make it a lot more ethical. I can't remember how I wrote it. I got an A on it because I did a good job with it, so I probably made a convincing argument. But I was all for cloning. I still am, but I understand the ethical concerns with it completely. But we don't really have the technology to do it in an ethical way yet. We'd probably have cured a catalog of neurological afflictions. Brain-dead, lab-grown humans artificially and rapidly matured for organ harvest. Yep. Mixed human chimera. First place goes to the feline approach from Japan. I knew someone would do this. Why'd you do it, Mr. Tucker? He had such a shit answer, it made me want to punch the TV. What was his answer again? They're talking about Full Metal Alchemist. In the TV show, one of the early plot points is that a guy transmutes his daughter with his dog and basically makes a talking chimera. But the only reason it's talking is because it's basically a human that was turned into an animal. And all it did was ask why he was in so much pain. It was really sad because he got to know the little girl before she got, basically mutated by her father. What was his answer again? I haven't seen the anime in a while. Because he was going to lose his state license and become homeless if he didn't, and he was going to lose his family if he did. So he just did it to prove that he could, since either way he was losing everything. You'd think he'd just round up a hobo or something instead of using his daughter plus dog. What an idiot. I think there was a specific answer for that as well, but I don't remember. I know that he had to use a child because adults were too old to adopt the fusion according to his theories. But that theory was wrong because I think all of the other chimeras are totally fine, only his wife rejected the fusion. I might have also been because he was hiding the fact a human was part of the transmutation as all. Before we learned that he used his wife last time, all we heard is he made a talking chimera. It's possible that trying to hide that, for ethical reasons, limited him. Also, I thought he believed that he'd at least keep his house and lifestyle, minus Nina and Alexander if he did it. Not lose everything, he just got caught by people who wouldn't keep their mouth shut. Brother? No. Every time I forget this episode, some cunt reminds me. Fuck, how can a little cartoon girl make me feel so shit? It was ready to post a link to Edward scene just to fuck with you. I need someone to bring up the Chimera thing. I'm just gonna leave this here. Catgirlcare.org. Look what you did. Look what you fucking did. Now everyone is referencing Full Metal Alchemist, and I'm fucking teared up, and I'm pissed. Yeah, everyone's mentioning Full Metal Alchemist. I knew they would. That actually gets brought up a lot in Askreddit threads, now that I think about it. For, like, good reason. It's a really good anime. I think it's the #1 rated anime over on Mal. It might be, and I'm pretty sure it's in the top 10 in IMDb. And for good reason. It is just a really solid show. Artificial wombs. As a medical scientist, I feel that I can say with a fair amount of confidence that vaccine research would be sped up by about 1,000%. If we were allowed to perform experiments on animals and people in the most efficient way possible. In fact, all of infectious diseases research would make a huge leap forward. Mouse models are pretty much all we have left now. Now, that is close to impossible to experiment on primates due to ethical restrictions, and mice are terrible models for human disease. On top of this, the amount of animal research we can do is very limited because it is insanely expensive to keep the mice the humane way we are now required to do by law with round-the-clock care. With round-the-clock care and professional vets on call at all time. Even though the circumstances are luxurious compared to the cheap and dirty ways we did before, I wouldn't really say it was a great life for a mouse, even if they weren't part of a medical research. Plus, because of the threat of animal rights terrorists, the amount of money we need to build the bunkers to encase these animal facilities is enormous. There are actually many outstanding questions in infectious disease research that are holding the entire field back on particular diseases because we simply can't do the experiments needed to resolve them with ethical restrictions. Can't they just do them in China? Israel, some of them. A friend of mine had to fly down there to do research involving mice embryos that wasn't allowed in Europe. Anything that is fatal or life-threatening, I think, is what the original comment is getting at. We can't just do vaccine trials on Ebola with people or HIV. Think about how smallpox vaccine trials were done today. How would they even go about that? With smallpox, we got lucky. The vaccine is made with Vaccinia, another pox virus that is nothing in comparison to smallpox for the vast majority of people. Interestingly, there is great uncertainty as to whether Vaccinia actually comes from cloning. Whenever I find a hair in my food, or my shirt, or desk, that most definitely isn't mine. I have the specific urge to take the hair and extract the genetic material and breed a clone that I will raise up until the age that I can determine exactly whose hair it is, thus abandoning their clone on the doorsteps, giving them the financial burden of raising it, all out of spite for their strand of hair inconveniencing me. Fun fact, not the hair itself, but the skin attached to it at the base is what has the DNA. You can still determine a lot through the hair, though. Like what? What color hair you have? Plasmids and a city at the bottom of the ocean. Hopefully splicer-free. Lots of advances in psychology. Oh, that's true. I never even thought of that. Care to elaborate? Ever wonder what happens when you lock an autistic kid in a dark room filled with turkeys? Well, no, you don't have to. Oh, yeah, there's one experiment that psychologists really love to do, but they can't for ethical reasons, is to raise a child with no parents and see how they develop. Obviously, you can't do that because that's a terrible way to treat a person. But it's a good way to solve the nature versus nurture argument. In that, what has more to do with a child's upbringing? Is it the nature that they're brought up in? Or is it just an innate thing that they have that they'll grow up and be fine? Or how they will act and everything. You know, like raising children in a zero external stimuli situation. You can't do that. But if there were no ethics, that's one of the experiments that would probably be done immediately. What happens when you lock an autistic kid in a dark room filled with turkeys? I call it day dogs. Wow, Dwarf Fortress out in the wild. A lot of times I see posts from the subreddit and I think they're really disgusting Askreddit questions. What's the most efficient way to kill off children without ever getting in a bad mood? The guard dog ripped off the dwarf's finger and stabbed me in the eye with it. Anyone else seen this? What? What on ear? Bay 1912 games. Dwarf Fortress is leaking again. Experimenting with humans often comes with a lot of ethics that need to be taken into consideration. Take that away and the sky's the limit. See the Stanford prison experiment. Or the Little Albert experiment. Heck, take a look at this thread where tons of interesting experiments are mentioned that could yield very interesting results. I should probably take this opportunity to talk about the Stanford prison experiment. This is a very famous experiment in which a college professor paid a whole bunch of students to pretend to be guards and prisoners. And he basically gave them free reign, and the guards ended up being sadistic and torturing the prisoners and vice versa when they switched roles. It's a very flawed thing because the person who was running the experiment strongly encouraged the guards to be assholes. So it's not a legitimate psychological experiment, but it's a very famous one, and it proves that people are just, assholes by nature. But the experiment itself is flawed. If it was ever done again, which it can't be done because of the ethics, you'd probably find out that people would just act kind of normal. Maybe they'd be a little bit more inclined to be a dick, but not much more than normal. The experiment itself isn't a widely accepted one in the psychological community, but in the general community that doesn't know shit about psychology, they all think it's true. Oh, I think this one's better. Plus, there were other things besides the professor intentionally goading on the guards to do shit. There were other things that factor, like more subtle things that probably if he hadn't goaded him on, probably would have also influenced the experiment. It just wasn't a very well-conducted experiment. Did anyone actually learn anything from the Stanford prison experiments besides how bad of an experiment it was? None of the experiments in this thread would yield any scientific breakthroughs. Yeah. That's basically it. In psychology, there are a few ethical boundaries, like don't cause long-lasting psychological harm to the subjects of the experiment. Before these guidelines were used, we had a lot of good research done that we really can't replicate at all, because the researchers don't want the subjects to be hurt/die. The Milgram experiment, the Stanford prison experiment, and a bunch of other examples. Like the one that might have created the Unabomber. Yeah, maybe that one too. Came here to say that when I was studying psych, a lot of the time professor would joke that we don't have as much data on that because of the ethical side. And that stays with me as a result of having toddlers grow up in complete isolation without human stimuli versus the human stimuli. Yeah, so this is the one I was talking about. Human hybrid people. So IRL furries. What a horrible time that would be. Suicide booths. 7-assed monkeys. Population control. Genetic augmentation. Destruction of central life-threatening diseases. They could do so much, but it's always a call of ethics and such that would hold people back along with what is morally right, even though everyone has different morals. A drug that lets you not sleep at all. That'd be cool. How to best psychologically torment an aquaphobic fat guy. You have a mind with Sims 3. How to best psychologically. That's pretty funny. Brain enhancement via extreme nootropic drugs. Actually, the bottleneck isn't ethics, it's funding. Although I suppose shooting Grover Norris in the face sort of qualifies as chucking ethics. Source was funded scientist, not now. Ethics abandoned equals harvest organs and sell them. You now have funding. Yeah, I'm pretty sure ethics plays a big part in it. Oops. I mean funding too. That's also a factor, but I'm pretty sure the biggest thing is the ethical part of it.